spent the night in Ridgecrest. Now we're headed up to Manzanar National Historic Site, which, according to the brochure, was a Japanese internment camp in World War II. We're currently driving up Highway 395, which coincidentally goes right by Temecula, along the Sierra Nevada mountains. We're right at the tip. The southern end is right there. Our first stop today is at Fossil Falls. As you can tell, this is a volcanic area. Most of this came from that little cinder cone you can see in the background there. Essentially, what went on is that as the ice melted near the end of the Ice Age, this desert valleys here at the foot of the mountains would fill with water. And then the volcanoes, being very active at the time, send out huge clouds of dust and ash and lava. And the lava coming out of the volcanoes would hit the water in these huge lakes and make volcanic rocks. Now we're at the falls themselves. This is the remnants of a dry waterfall. One of the big lakes that filled up in this basin got dammed up by a buildup of rock, and all the water came rushing down and began to pour over the basalt from the volcano and form these. Pretty amazing what a little bit of water can do, or a lot of it. I just wanted to point out Mount Whitney, the tallest point in the continental United States. And now we're going to move into Vlogbrothers style Thoughts from Places mode for the remainder of the video, accompanied by period accurate music to set the tone. For those who did not catch this earlier, Manzanar was one of 10 war relocation camps built by our government in the 1940s to house Japanese. Not prisoners of war, but any person of Japanese descent deemed to be a threat. That is, just about every person of Japanese descent. In this room, laid out in a replica of one of the camp barracks, they had various artifacts from Manzanar, including several photographs taken by, and I apologize in advance for the mutilation of this and all other Japanese names, Toyo Miyatake on a camera like this replica, which was built by his son for the museum. Cameras were not allowed in the camp, but Toyo managed to smuggle one in, disguise it as a wooden lunchbox, and document the mostly happy times of Manzanar. You heard that correctly. Despite the barbed wire fences, from the testimonies and pictures, it really did seem like a nice way of life on the inside. To paraphrase one of the residents, life in Manzanar was much like life in any other small town. We had everything, except our freedom. For this reason, I hesitate to call it a concentration camp, for these were nothing like the death camps of the Nazis we were fighting at the time, but that is technically what they are. Even President Roosevelt called them that on occasion. And now we move to the cemetery, at the center of which is the striking memorial built by Ryozo Kato. He not only built this, but also several other art projects in and around the Japanese garden the residents constructed in the center of their space. Little touches like these helped transform Manzanar from a desert prison into a livable place, and concentration camp or not, it cannot be denied that at least we treated our prisoners thoughtfully, humanely, and, for the most part, nicely. This seems to be a theme of American history. Sure, we mistreated the native races, but it wasn't that bad compared to the Spanish's slaughters of entire cultures. Sure, we enslaved Africans, but it wasn't that bad compared to the horrors of West Indies slavery. Sure, we fought quite a few unnecessary wars, but did you know that Britain once went to war over a guy sitting on the wrong chair? And besides, there are many more cultures more warlike than ours, and when we win, we almost always treat our enemies with honor and respect. Just look at Japan and Germany. We helped them so hard that before too long their economies will put ours to shame. All the same, that does not excuse the fact that these are some of our great national shames. But it is important to remember the words that President Reagan spoke in his speech before the signing of Civil Liberties Act of 1988.
Yes, the nation was then at war, struggling for its survival, and it's not for us today to pass judgment upon those who may have made mistakes while engaged in that great struggle. Yet we must recognize that the internment of Japanese Americans was just that, a mistake.
Finally, we come to the story of Hikoji Takeuchi. Upon arriving in Manzanar with his family, Hikoji decided to build some furniture so his mother would have something to sit on besides the uncomfortable cots that were in the barracks. He got permission from one of the guards to gather scrap lumber for said project, but as he was doing this, the guard shot him for no discernible reason. Thankfully, Hikoji survived, and the furniture was built by some of his friends while he was recovering. Many years after he left Manzanar, he was interviewed about his life. He had these things to say about the United States. Quote, "There's no other place that can compare to it. Although our differences may be there, like Mrs. McDougall, one of his childhood schoolteachers, says, one of the reasons America is so strong is because no matter where the people have come from, they have one thought in mind. They wanted to practice what they believed in. We were born over here. We're all Americans," she said. "Don't ever forget that. We're so proud and always will be. At least my kids will. I know they will. And that will never change." End quote. Be out.